So today I have with me Duncan Sill, who's producing, directing a movie documentary called One Paycheck Away, which is to cover the broken middle class and lower and to bring a perspective from how to fix it from the bottom up. Did I pretty much nail that?
I think you nailed it, and
All
and I think
right.
in a few words, it's really about the walking nightmare dismantling the working and middle class,
Right.
not just in America. I think in many places across the world, and this is done by the direct experience and lenses with several working and middle class, hardworking Americans. So it's unfolding of that walking nightmare.
Right. So when can we expect this movie to come out? Ballpark numbers. When do you think it'll be ready?
Ballpark, I am starting to structure Act Three right now. I do have uh, probably 2 to 3 months worth of production on location that I still need to do, and that could stack
Right.
uh, for duration. So the complete piece of this, I'm looking at a 2023 release. With that said, I reconfigured and reset my approach to this. I am going to be working on launching at least two um, pre-release events to
Okay.
feature parts of the stories, introduce the characters, get folks to attend, chime in, share their experience. As Steve, as you might have seen in my website, there's a dedicated page for community comments and,
Yeah.
and and sharing. So people will have that type of platform, but in a somewhat of a live event that we do, that we show some footage, tell a little bit about the stories that the characters are experiencing, and then other folks who may be attending could share their own personal experience, and so we want to use this as an interactive way of engagement so that it's not a passive viewing type of project, and then leading to the completion of the documentary, the distribution and the showing. um then there would already been an acknowledgement that this is something that people want to see. I don't want to do something that nobody cares about.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's fair. I mean, okay, so the earliest 2023, probably late 2023 then.
It may not be late. It may be, something in the spring. We'll but definitely look out for announcements for the pre-release events. Because I think we have a little bit of a window now, coming out of the intensity of the pandemic, to do a little bit more with the
Right.
public, and I may even be able to host the events, not only, through virtual platforms, but maybe a live event, at a local venue,
Oh yeah, that's always great to do.
and then broadcast that,
Right, right.
you
Yeah.
know, have participants come in online, who otherwise will not be able to attend in person.
So I just want to kind of get a couple of things here for the movie. Did you have like a couple of set towns that you wanted to go to for sure? Or did you just
Yes.
kind of just go to wherever you felt like?
No, no, it was definitely through a little bit of analysis and observations up front, and the decision was made back in 2019 that New Orleans and Louisiana was one of the major locations. And the reason for that is that, I mean, everyone in the country knows about Katrina, right?
Yeah.
But post Katrina, or even before Katrina, there were a lot of things that affected the average person and family and household. In New Orleans, basically, for lack of a better term, and it's it's sort of one of these things. It's got the perfect storm. Not only since Katrina, but even now, in the last very recently, in the last month, they saw hurricane. They're already expecting a pretty intense hurricane season come.
'Tis the season for hurricanes.
Yeah, and it's just really never stopped.
Right.
As I mentioned, it's not just Katrina. Is between then and now, everything that has gone on. And then when you stack that with the socioeconomic and cultural components of these communities, it tells a very revealing story through the major character that I have there.
Okay.
About the not only the state of Louisiana and New Orleans as a city, but the psyche and the collective anxiety that we're experiencing right now in the country, and
Okay.
probably previously, pre-pandemic.
Right.
So I anchor quite a bit of the story there. And then the companion piece of it is Albuquerque, New Mexico, which has gone from a sleepy middle class southwestern city into a more progressive, diverse, technologically based, industry, economy, and there are different things going on. But at the same time, there's also these affinities with a long history of culture, and gentrification, has manifested there, in the last few years very rapidly. And so there are these parallels between New Orleans and places like Albuquerque, that I could tell the story about displacement and gentrification, which it's not only unique to, what we previously, or some folks still think, oh, it's all these people who are collecting welfare checks. That's not
Right.
true
Right.
anymore, right? Maybe
Right.
that hasn't been true for a long time. People just didn't pay attention to it. So through these characters, who are, and I want to reiterate, they're hardworking, middle-class Americans. There's a character in there, she's not a major character, but the story was appropriate in context. Someone who was previously an upper middle class, she and her husband had six-figure incomes.
Right.
Something happened. It doesn't take much. One paycheck away it's not really, the notation and the connotation of it doesn't represent your one paycheck away from being homeless. A lot of people, when I mention that, they think, oh, it's about, being almost homeless, or
Right.
well, it's not really that. This is about the core of Americana. This is about a lot of folks, if not yourself. And that moment when, why I use the term the walking nightmare is that the second that we realize that we're in it and we have to face it, that's when we need to face up to the very anxiety that we have inherited, in our society for so long, and we didn't have the ability to cope with it, let alone coming up with solutions, right? So the characters in Albuquerque and in New Orleans, they were forced to face this walking nightmare, and then they found themselves trapped in these conditions, and they have tried or sought the ground floor up solutions, and then discovering that a lot of the status quo that they believed in, that they for the longest time trusted is failing them.
Right. Would it be more appropriate instead of the walking nightmare to be more like stuck in purgatory?
Well, you could definitely associate that.
Okay, because I know there are instances of people like actually breaking through and making it up in the higher class. So like it could be either or, like waking up from a nightmare or breaking out of purgatory to get somewhere better. So, but a walking nightmare does seem more appropriate because if you have the right wits or the ability to, you do have the ability to succeed beyond it. So that does like give a simple hope, like eventually you are going to wake up. So I think I'll retract that.
Well, no, I mean, different people might have a different interpretation of where he or she may be, right?
Mhm.
There may be folks who feels like it is purgatory.
Right.
Do I just sink down to hell, or do why I mean, the walking nightmare is really based on the experience of the key character, the main characters that I have in this film.
Okay.
It's appropriate for them.
Okay.
And I think the kind of like imagine that you day and night you're experiencing a nightmare that you didn't realize that you were a part of.
Right.
That it's a collective horror.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a horror that you can relate to at some point in your life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Let's switch gears a little bit.
Sure.
Do you think a lot of these issues could be fixed by more localized communities working together better? Or do you think the states should more have oversight into it?
I think it needs to start on the local level.
Okay, so you're thinking a more tighter community,
Well,
maybe?
maybe I don't know, what the right term is. I think I mentioned earlier that I just got back from New Orleans.
Right.
Part of the reason why I went there was that on Easter, the main character that I have in New Orleans, we drove west to the hometown she grew up in, a place called Edgard.
Okay.
They have barely, I don't know, 2,500 people. Most of the folks, they have to commute, for their jobs.
Right.
Because a lot of the local businesses are no longer viable. There's still some, right?
Right.
But with that said, that it kind of sets up the tone of a lot of rural small places across America, where you have the lack of opportunity, younger folks pick up and go.
That's where I'm at right now.
Right.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah. You want to try to find a way to what you were saying about having a tight local community, a smaller community, right?
Yeah.
You got to have a way to take care of your basic needs.
Right.
And from the federal and state level, and even a lot of the regional quote unquote governmental policy levels, we have rendered small town America
to be obsolete almost.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement, and it breaks my heart every time, right? When I go into small town America, and a lot of people are going to dismiss it. Oh, that's just a bunch of rednecks or blah 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 blah. I mean,
we get that a lot, yeah.
right. Or like we're all ignorant. Like we don't know better, so we're just gonna throw you a couple of carrots, and you just shut the fuck up and be on your way, right?
Pretty
And then,
much.
once in a while, we kind of like your region. Well, maybe there's some extraction or some natural resources we're going to suck out of it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll give you guys a couple of jobs,
Yeah.
right?
A lot of the times though, like for around in my area, which is
Yeah,
about Indiana,
yeah,
Chicago area, it's all truck drivers
yeah,
because they want to get away from home.
yeah, yep,
That's a lot of what they do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's certainly, a number of folks. So with that said, quite a number of folks, in this small town, they, not by choice, they have to take a job at these um, petrochemical
Oh, yeah.
plants,
Yeah.
so just up the road on the back road, which is way away from the main highway. A lot of people don't notice. You don't really see it because you see all the vegetation along the highway. You never see any of these things. That backside, we came back on that side, and and it just, my heart sank, going through that back row
Mhm.
of Cancer Valley. So so it's sort of like, if you ever been to Las Vegas on the strip, those big humongous casinos, right? On that, it's
Yep.
kind of like that, but industrial.
Yep.
It's monster size.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Facilities. You got the chemical, you got the refinery. People always think of just the petrol refinery, right?
Hmm.
But that's probably, from what little I know, from my knowledge about impact, that's probably the least of our worries.
The
So,
petrol
and that's saying a
refineries.
lot. That's saying a lot, So you got the chemicals, you got the nuclear plants. There's a reason why they call that Cancer Valley. Um, and this is upstream from a lot of water resources. So, as you can imagine, it's not going to take much. But some of these jobs that they create or sustain, um, create, or, render a little bit of that dependency of, from people in these smaller communities. And so they move further and further away from self-sufficiency. Now, with that said, what the one of the things that I saw in this place um on Easter was the town church, which was built several hundred years ago.
That
Um,
recent, huh?
yeah, and well maintained, nonstop. Through the duration of
Yeah.
these hundreds of years.
Okay.
So with that, what it told me was that this community could actually do something,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it did, right? So the main character's dad, he in addition to the to doing a job, he worked in a shipyard,
Yeah.
so he commute. He also came and grew gardens of food. He had the biggest harvest uh, in that community, and every year he would just give the food away to everyone. And so there are these signs, where folks do have a sincere commitment to try to share and take care of one another.
Hmm.
So it's not just all blight, right? All
Right. Right.
right, but you do see the displacements.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, so I think, to your point, is that, taking um, what they were already doing as a solution, that growing a crop, able to give the surplus away. And then, some other people are taking care of, another family that, I was told the story about this community member, like a lot of small town America, became a victim of substance abuse.
Yeah, we have that out here too. A
A
lot of
lot.
it.
It was, I mean, the whole in the last couple of decades, kind of that upswing of, not only, from the recreational drug side thing, but the prescription shit,
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's
That's
ridiculous.
even
It's way
worse.
out of control.
That's even worse, right? So this guy, um, experiencing substance abuse, the community, around him didn't marginalize him. They did not forsaking him. They didn't just say, he's a fuck up, we're not gonna pay attention to him, just let him rot, right?
Right.
They did not do that. They actually, figured out a way to have him engage, slowly over time, because, as with substance abuse, you slip in and out, right?
Yeah, that's why
Uh,
they call it relapse. Yeah.
and on the policy level, and outside of this community, everyone is saying, well, why isn't he better? We gave him all the help that he needed, but he just didn't go to the program, blah 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 blah, right?
Well,
um
it could be because there's no driving force behind him to keep going.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm kind of, it's a long-winded way to tell you that what I saw on Sunday gave me hope that there is something this community is doing, capable of doing. Is there a way to help them or participate with them that they could accelerate these efforts on a broader scale amongst themselves, right? And,
Right.
can that be, shown to other, through this project, or otherwise, right?
Right.
Shown to other communities that say, hey, maybe we could try that too. We got the same issues. We got almost the same people. um can we give this a shot, instead of waiting around, for the state government or the federal government to come and tell us what to do again. And then what? I
I
mean, I'm not saying, some things may work. I'm not saying there are absolutely no safety net programs or assistance out there. You look at when disasters happens, there is deployment of, response and recovery, but it's never done in a way that is thinking of, well, how do we, help this community and the people who are there become viable, so that they can go on with what they need to do, where they are, where they want to be, right?
do you think it's possible it's because the stigma of people being used to having government programs and not being able to just, yeah, I can always rely on a government. Do you think that's the issue? And we should more focus the policy and like tweak it a little bit to be like, you have to show signs of improvement of sorts.
Well, it's a mixed bag, right?
Right,
Because
right, right. It's a mixed
yeah,
bag.
yeah, it's a mixed bag. You really have to do this on the, that's why the local level is really important,
Right,
and not just a selected few. It's got to be about the average person in that local community.
right.
Some folks don't, they're so jaded, including myself, right? That I'm not going to speak up. Fuck this,
I mean,
right?
you're making a documentary. Obviously, you're speaking up.
Well, I'm speaking up. Yeah, I'm speaking up because I'm so fucking sick and tired. I walked away, from a lot of these, interactions and engagement with, policy making, because, I realized that, a lot of it actually made things worse. I mean, it created a bigger mess,
Right,
right? And
right.
I don't want to be, I don't want to be that person. So it took me a little while to come around, to commit myself to do this project, and hopefully, there will be something positive. and of benefit that comes out of it. And it's the very reason why I don't want this to be a top down, why I didn't want to go and poll, because I had other folks ask me or advise me to say, well, why don't you ask this person, blah blah blah, he's an expert, she's an expert. I was like, okay, we have too many experts. These experts do not speak the same language with the people I care about.
Right. Absolutely.
Then how is this useful? It's not, so I could get a whole bunch of experts, with their names and, have parties for the film, blah, 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 maybe go chase awards and shit like that. At the end of the day, is that going to make your life better? Probably not.
Exactly. It just probably
Then
wouldn't.
then why should I, I don't want to be that person.
Right.
I maybe I'm just stupid enough to want to do this, but it's one of those things that, and it's and it's also a kind of a lonely endeavor too. You don't get a whole lot of help, because you're not with the status quo.
Right. Especially if you don't have any kind of sponsors or any kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Investors. Like if you don't have any of that, like it really dampers the ability for you to do certain things.
Yeah, and I've been really selective,
Right.
pulling down investors, because where their money came from, how they're trying to drive the message.
Right.
I don't want to compromise the integrity, of the principle of the project.
Right. I just had a weird thought. And it's like, yeah, if you were that kind of person to take those investments, like what was to stop you from just hiring some kid to go get you some B-roll, take all the experts and just make it in like a couple of months? Like if you were a lesser person, you could have done it.
Well, that's what a lot of projects are like.
Exactly.
And I don't I'm like I said, maybe I'm stupid. I'm just not that.
I think stupid is a harsh word. I think it's more of how do you put this in a polite way? You're very arrogant about how things are done and you want it done your way, is what it seems like. Right. So it's not stupid. You're just unique. What's wrong with being unique?
Right. Exactly.
So I have a weird one I just thought of too.
Go for it.
Do you think that we should, with the tax incentive, because you said something about tax incentive on your website, how do you picture that to be more realistic for the working class? Is it more of lower the taxes on the lower section of the income, or how would you kind of put that?
Well, I think, a tax reform certainly, will play a significant role in the balancing act of how income is distributed, because, most working and middle class folks, they go to a job, right? The people who, have a lot of resources economically and financially, they don't. They have investments, or they already have ability to build wealth. And we do not, have a structure in our tax policies to.
So are you suggesting more like a progressive tax system?
Well, it may be, things that will and it's only not only the restructure of the tax system, but it's also what do you do with those taxes, right? So, you have a lot of individuals who may be making money from investments.
Right.
And they are making investments through, I'm just going to pick an example.
Go for it. Yeah.
Because of the recent trends with the escalation and of the real estate prices all across the nation.
Oh, you mean how BlackRock is buying up everything?
Yeah, rents. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So you have, these investment trusts, that, individuals invest in, blah 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 blah, and they go to a lot of places across the nation. They buy up single family homes now. It's not even just apartments or high rises and think, I mean, that's part of the portfolio too, right?
Right.
So you got these money who's sucking money out of the local region, right?
Yeah.
And they're not really paying their share to reinvest into the infrastructure and the viability of these neighborhoods.
It's
Right.
draining the economics out of the community into somewhere else.
Right. Because a lot of times they go in, they know how to figure out, how did they abate, real estate taxes? They, they built what's called, affordable housing, right?
Yeah.
You get incentives, they get these tax credits that they sell to other wealthy institutions and individuals, right? You don't benefit from it.
No.
I don't benefit from it. My neighbors don't benefit from it. And then all of a sudden you have an escalation of displacement, right? Because I can't afford to pay rent anymore in the neighborhood that I grew up in. Right.
That's rough.
So I moved. My friends all moved, right?
Yeah.
Then it's a bunch of, I hate, for lack of a better word, it's not to be derogatory or anything, so you got a bunch of techie, hipsters moving in, right? They want, the neighborhood.
The Starbucks will follow.
Oh, it's probably, yeah, exactly. Or whatever it is, they want a certain type of environment, right? Because that's how, like, you see it time and time again, right? So and they, and I have people tell me, people who think they're doing good or doing good for the community. They say, well, yeah, but gentrification brings improvements to the neighborhood. I was like, okay, time out. Gentrification, the bottom line is, by definition, is displacement. You do not improve anything by ousting people who belong there, who should be a contributing member of society in this community. You are forcing these persons to go somewhere else because they're not worthy by the definition of the conditions that you created. How is this not displacement?
You got me there. I don't know. The most point of reference I have is in our town when it was first getting kind of built up. A lot of Polish communities moved in and bought city blocks, and it's just Polak town now. That's what everyone around here calls it. And they have a little festival every year.
Right.
Well, now too many people have moved in, and now it's kind of gotten mixed up, and Polak festival no longer really happens that much. It goes on, but it's nowhere near as big as it was.
Right.
So that's a good example for my frame of reference.
Right. And you take a fabric that was very much part of the community, right?
Right.
And now I'm not saying that we shouldn't accept change or welcome outsiders, but
right.
When the encroachment comes in and you do not have a choice anymore about the quality of life and your own identity, that is a form of violence. That is what colonialism is, right?
But the human race is so good at colonialism. Let's face it, they're really good at it.
Well, and that, I would say, and I'm going to spell this out, One Paycheck Away movie, that gentrification nowadays in our modern society is a form of colonialism. It's because it is the default displacement in so many communities now. It's not just here's a people think of gentrification is good when they go into, these really blighted neighborhoods in Detroit or Chicago, and, they fix some, abandoned building and blah, 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 blah,
You're
blah,
supposed to
right?
upgrade, not degrade. Come on now, let's go.
But exactly. But now it's like they actually go into these, like, working class, middle class, neighborhoods. And then,
Yeah.
overnight, you used to be able to pay your rent on the job that, you go to 5 days a week, whatever it is,
At
right?
9 to 5, yeah.
Yeah. Now, to make ends meet, okay, well, I got to pick up a night shift somewhere, probably work on the weekend, and I still can't afford rent. And then they're going to raise my rent again.
Yeah.
And so I don't, you got a lot of places now where the average home price is over $500,000, right? So
That's
you do the math,
ridiculous.
right? Just math, someone who's making $40,000, $50,000 a year, or even $100,000 a year is not really affordable, right?
No,
So
not at all.
what do you do? So, okay, so like it used to be what they call the cost burden for housing, right? There's a threshold around 30%, 30 to 33%, or even
Right.
40%, of what's reasonable.
Right.
But in some places, some neighborhoods in New Orleans now, where it just came back, the cost burden is over 60% of your income. So again, going back, what you were asking about tax structures,
Yeah.
and that's why, I'm giving you a little details, kind of the backstory of all this, because it's not just changing the tax structure itself. It's all these other things that are related, right?
Right.
And our policymakers, our so-called leaders, they work in silos. They have
Yeah.
interests, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they may not be aware of all these things, but most of them do not approach problem solving from a dimension like that. How do you affect, let's take the gentrification displacement scenario. So there's a neighborhood that needs desperately improvements because of some major infrastructure issues, right? So we got to pull private and public money into this, but at the same time, okay, now you have an investment group, along with the public sector, saying that in order for us to do this, we're going to have to move part of the population somewhere else.
Right.
And what you was, just using the example of the Polish festival, right?
Right.
That's an anchor cultural event in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
in that community. It's been their identity for a long, long time.
A very long time.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, how do you make sure that you're not compromising that identity and that relevance, even though it may not translate into the economics, right? You got to balance
Right.
life. It's not just about money, right?
Right.
We always money and that's, money is a necessary form for us to support the exchange of goods and services.
It's a tool.
Right?
It's an easy commerce tool. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's relevant that way. But what we have done is that we have turned money into a weapon. Right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely right.
You have all these complex things. What we were just asking about, the tax structure and the tax policy, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But for the average person, it's like, oh man, what's all this stuff?
It's like, oh, right? It's government stuff. I don't want to listen to this.
Yeah, I don't want to. They make it so complicated because it's by intention, right?
Yeah.
It's out of that they keep adding and adding and adding, complexity on top of complexity. Even they don't understand it.
As an
Right.
old man once told me, you're making things too difficult. Stop it.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's the thing. We need to stop it. Right.
Yeah.
It's my point is like going back to the story that I was telling you about my trip on Sunday to Edgar, to this small, rural community in Louisiana. It's sort of, okay, well, they try to figure out how to meet their basic needs. And have a community fabric, in the form of, in this case, the form of a church, right? That they have through generations committed to support and maintain, right? It's, it's kind of like the Polish festival, right? People from the outside, that's just a festival, but there's so much more than just the festival.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And those are the things that, to me, it's more important about Americana than all of these kind of artificial fabric. We're probably the most advanced, technological society in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have very, successful, complicated financial systems and institutions. We have a lot of wealth, but we're fucked up as humans.
I mean, yeah.
I'm sorry.
We are. Like, I completely agree.
Right? What's wrong with that picture?
If you were religious, it's the fact that humans are innately have a unique ability of sinning no matter what they do. Just saying, like, from a religious perspective, right. But from like an agnostic perspective, it's like, people do shitty things. That's just how it is.
Yeah, but do we really need to do shitty things? Like,
no, we don't need to. Like, my favorite quote is, "It costs you nothing to be an asshole, and here you are."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, what do you think is probably the most pragmatic solution one person can do to try and start something?
I think really is, really front and center, understand where you are.
Okay.
What do you have? Don't think about what you lack, because we all lack a lot.
My wants and needs,
right? And continue to reflect on that, but act on it in a way that, hey, if it's kind of, it's like a lot of the country songs, right? Tomorrow never comes.
Right.
What do you got right now that is really truly yours and it's worthwhile? I think each one of us has something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It may not seem, it's sort of like, we don't want to gauge against other folks, who may have a lot more wealth, or, I do know people, who could buy a latte every day. I cannot. But
I bought a coffee maker and I'm on my second one throughout the year. Like,
right. But I think, it's really starting from, where you are right now. Pay attention, to our past, right? Because, we learn from that, but don't keep, looking back all the time.
Right.
Because you won't realize what's in front of you right now. And don't think too much, too far ahead. There are too many people who plan for this. So look, 3 years from now. Well, right now, what are you doing? Not only for yourself, but people around you, your family, your loved ones. Are you doing something that is helping them or hurting them?
I actually have a good example for this.
Yeah.
So I'm in the countryside. I have chickens in the backyard. My family knows my door's open to come get eggs whenever they want.
Yeah.
I'm looking at getting meat birds going so I can keep feeding them. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. There you go. But it starts from something like that, right?
Right.
And I think each one of us has that ability. We can't just be saying, oh, shit's too hard, I got nothing, okay, poor me, okay, feel sorry for yourself for 10 seconds and then go
Right.
do something.
Exactly.
I'm not saying, hey, sometimes we get so fucking tired, right? We
Oh
get
yeah, we do.
down, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. You know what? That doesn't last unless you let it.
Right.
Unless you let it, right?
You just gotta find something that drives you, I think, is the main issue.
And that's part of the, why I wanted to do this project is sort of like, I know a lot of people feel helpless out there
Oh yeah.
right
Yeah,
now.
they
It's
do.
like, what am I, what am I supposed to do? I'm only this, small town, or small time, blah, 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 blah. I just trying to keep my head low. I still got a job. So, I'm not going to rock the boat. But you know what? Maybe you need to rock the boat. Maybe you need to say, no, I'm not taking this shit anymore.
So you're advocating for self-respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there we go.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of my show. Advocate for self-respect for the most part.
Yeah. And then there will be others, who
Oh yeah.
are doing the same things. And all of a sudden that becomes
A partnership.
a better partnership, a better echo chamber than
Yeah.
the status quo thing that we, I should just kind of go with the herd, right?
Yeah.
Let us all fall off the fucking cliff.
Lemurs in a jar,
Right. I mean, you do a little bit like you said with your chickens, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, okay, you stabilize that, that's your core, then you can add a little bit or divest and do something different. And then you may have other buddy, part of your family is going to do something else. And if we do not pay attention to the viability and revitalization of our small communities in Americana, we're in fucking deep shit.
I mean, aren't we already with a lot of
We
supply chain
are.
issues? Do you
We
think
are.
things are going to get worse?
Things may have to get worse before they get better, because despite what you and I are talking about, and maybe, what you were turning about, my own arrogance, and about insisting, right? Because I just cannot adhere to the status quo bullshit anymore. And if you want to call that arrogance or whatever it is, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, no, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's a good thing to be
Yeah.
like, the stupid is a strong term. Being like forcibly arrogant and be like, I'm changing this or I'm doing this. That's not stupid. That is just a different word of putting it. That seems more in a positive light.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you. I mean, with that said, there has to be, people out there, despite feeling helpless,
Right.
feeling marginalized, insignificant. It doesn't matter, if you're in South Bend, Indiana, Edgar, Louisiana, Clovis, New Mexico, Seattle, Washington, whatever it is, right? There are people like that everywhere.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to take that first step.
Right. You just need a catalyst.
That's
what you need.
And that's what I'm trying to do here, and this is not going to be a one-off. My intention is that I want to keep momentum, by launching this project initially, just as an invitation, to show the images, to share the stories of these main characters and say, okay, you know what, we really are not alone.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you need a new place to come, you need to come to South Bend.
I may.
It's a big college town with Notre Dame there. There's on the south side. It's just like Louisiana.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah. You from there, Steve?
Yeah. I'm about 15 minutes from South Bend.
Okay. Cool. Most of your family's from there too?
Pretty much all of it.
All right. Cool. I'll go check out the Polish festival. When is that? When does that happen?
When's the Polak festival? It's in spring, right? It's the
What Pollock Festival?
one where you used to live by.
That was usually either the week before or the week after.
Memorial Day?
No,
No.
it was usually the week after the fair.
The week after the fair. They said she used to live right next to where they had the Polish Town festival. And so it's usually the week after the LaPorte Fair.
Okay.
That's when they would have it. I can find the details for you, but
Yeah. Let's stay in touch on a few things like that. I mean, if I do, have a chance, I would love to come.
yeah, sure.
Because I do have some folks that I connected with in Illinois.
So that's a big one too.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be. I actually have a buddy who grew up on a farm there. He moved away. His folks are still there. I wanted to visit that region to see to kind of get a little bit more insight about how a lot of farming communities, because of the younger folks leave. I mean, I'm in New Mexico right now. The average age of a farmer is like 65 or 66.
Yeah, that's what we got here too.
Yeah. People just don't want to do it. I mean, I did farming, but it's hard work. It's not.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's not rewarding. But the commitment and the sincerity that you put into it by getting your hands dirty, there's nothing else like that on earth. But a lot of kind of younger folks or kind of wannabes, they say, okay, we could, we want to do this, but the moment that they get into their first season, they're like, oh, this is too freaking hard. It's like, it's not a romantic thing.
No, it is not. It is romanticized, but it's not fun.
You watch these TV or movies, not really like that.
If you ever sit with a bunch of farmers and watch like a farmer movie, they'll just sit back and be like, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong.
I know that. Yeah,
that tractor's way too clean to be used.
Oh no. I mean, the farm that I worked on last up in San Luis Valley in Colorado, all the tractors are old. We have a 1950s golden Jubilee that we got a few years ago. It works.
It'll work until it don't.
Yeah,
it'll work work.
And there's a reason why it was called the golden Jubilee.
Yeah, that's like some of these 80 Tex refrigerators. They will keep going.
Yeah. And so it shows you, right? We could actually make stuff like that.
Right.
We could and it'd be useful. It'll be long lasting, and it could be shared. Somehow we walked away from all of that.
I blame the copyright structure.
Yeah.
Every little bit and piece is copyrighted, and nobody wants to make the marginalized parts. Yeah. So that way they can fit into each different thing.
Oh. So in South Bend, with a lot of folks who are from there, where do they work?
So I work a delivery job. That's just what I do. A lot of people here closer towards LaPorte work in factory jobs. Yeah, like we've got Aero Metals, Fast Pack, and they're just different sheet metal companies and brass making parts. In South Bend specifically, it's more of like day-to-day necessity jobs. Nurses, taxi drivers are a big one. We've got like city servants. There's a lot of those, but then the rest of them they outsource somewhere else, and they just come back to South Bend.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's a unique city.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out if I could head up your way at some point. Cool.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good.
All right. Yeah.
Any final remarks? Any kind of One Paycheck Away movie released 2023 spring? Hopefully.
Maybe. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have some pre-release events. So definitely, we'll stay in touch.
All right.
And any of your listeners or folks want to share comments, definitely do kick it my way, man.
I will put a link to your website down in the dibbly doo below the video.
Thank you,
All
Steve.
right. Thanks
Keep
for
up the
coming
good-
on.
Keep up the chickens.
Oh, I will. I will.
Yeah, good deal. I'll see you
Yeah.
soon.
Thank you for watching this episode. Stay cool, fam.